There's a chill in the air and the ground is stirring.
It's good for growing anything, but herbs especially, because they do love the cooler times of the year. They grow very profusely, they grow very lushly, and you get the best effect out of them.
So now the drought's broken, Noel Burdett from the Bottle Tree Nursery reckons it's time to get back into the garden. And what better plants to start with than herbs?
I just love all herbs. I just think everyone should try all the different ones as well as the basic culinary ones as well.
Herb grower Scott Hinton agrees. So how do we begin? Well,
don't go for the designer look for a start. Think of 2 or 3 herbs that you regularly use and don't just plant one of each.
after you've chosen your herbs, it's time to think about where you're going to plant them. Herbs love the sun and need to be sheltered from dry westerly winds.
If you can find a position in the yard which has perhaps a deciduous tree over it that will let more sun in through wintertime.
Back to Noel. He's got some tips for potting or planting in the garden. It's fine to do either, but remember,
growing herbs on windowsills indoors is a no-no in our climate. It doesn't truly work. It's something that's very romantic. We've actually adopted this look from American magazines and on television.
time to start potting.
The most important thing is one herb per good-sized pot. So this is a 30-centimetre pot, and that's going to give every herb a really good start in life.
Look for a good quality potting mix which is Australian certified, as it'll carry slow-release fertilisers and wetting agents to help herbs grow.
Position the herb at a really nice height to the same level as the pot, so you don't need to overfill, and then backfill around the herb.
Next, press the mix firmly around the plant.
And then give it 1 or 2 taps just to make sure, then water the plant in and you're set to go.
So what about those larger herbs? Choose a pot that will accommodate for size and growth.
Mid-sized plants like rosemary can live in a pot this size, for instance, for a couple of years quite happily. And of course things like lemongrass, which have a very vigorous root system and can grow quite tall, suit a much larger pot yet again.
Noel, how do you know when your herbs need to be repotted?
Well, they'll be very root bound, you know that for a fact. They won't be getting much in the way of nutrition or moisture.
On to planting in the garden, loosen up the soil, then make a nice rounded hole, usually the same depth as the pot you're going to be planting, and a little wider so the roots can spread out. Okay, so we just take the herb out like that?
You tip it out like that, yes.
And put it in?
Place it into the hole and simply backfill, just as you would, firm it down, and then give it a really good watering in.
Some herbs grow better in the garden.
The more vigorous spreading herbs, such as mint and oregano, they really perform much better long-term in the ground where they could really set and do their thing.
Remember to space your herbs 40 to 50 centimetres apart for good airflow. Scott's had great success with his herbs. Although he's branched out with more unusual ones, here's a basic setup.
Onion chives and garlic chives, you need lots of those planted because each time you harvest you're taking a bunch like that.
A dwarf tomato bush accompanying some parsley.
And up front here is the best flavoured oregano you'd ever find.
Favourites like oregano, thyme and rosemary come from the Mediterranean, where the soil is quite poor, so they thrive easily.
Some of the Asian herbs, such as basil and coriander, etc., they really do love a little bit of extra fertiliser thrown their way.
A final tip, don't get too keen to pick. Leave your herbs 4 to 6 weeks before giving them a taste test.